Hello everyone. So in today's session we are going to learn about soil moisture sensor, how to use it, and we will also do a project that is our smart irrigation system with the help of our soil moisture sensor. So this is our soil moisture sensor. Let's see what are the components we have in it. So here you can see we have three things in our soil moisture sensor. We have some jumper wires. Apart from them we have one I2C, and this is your soil moisture sensor. So this is actually your soil moisture sensor. Here you can see it has two probes. Now these two probes when inserted in a soil or which have some moisture in it, means it is a wet soil. So what will happen, these two terminals or these two probes will become conductive. So by their conductivity we can measure that the soil is having a moisture or not. For example, if we have dry soil, then these two probes will never be conductive or will never be meet to each other, so they are not conductive. So we can easily say that it is like in the soil we don't have any moisture present. But if a soil in which we are putting it has some water in it, means it is wet, then what will happen, so as water is your conductive, so these two probes will be in conductive. Let me show you an example. So here I have a container in which we have soil. So if I put it here, so now the soil is your dry, so means there is no connection between them. But if it is wet, then what will happen, as your water is conductive, like your impure water is conductive, and in our soil we have some impurities also. So when the impure water is being in contact with these two probes, they become conductive. Now let's put them aside. Now let's see the connection. So here you can see we have only two pins. Now these two pins will be connected directly with these two pins here by using the jumper wires which we have provided. And after that, from the output we have these four pins. Now, let me show you what are the four pins we have. Now here if you see, we have this 4 pin, that is your VCC and ground for powering it up, and after that we have D0 and A0. D0 or DO we can call it as, it is your digital output, and then AO, that is your analog output. So these are your two pins which will be our output pins. So we can use any one of them. For getting digital value, that is your 1 or 0, we will use digital pin. For getting analog value, we will using analog pin, and this VCC and ground for powering it up. Apart from that, we also have two LEDs. So here you can see D0 LED, that is your output LED, and this is your power LED. So when we plugged in, like we are providing with VCC and ground, this power LED will turn it on. Now apart from that, we have this potentiometer by which we can increase and decrease the sensitivity of our soil moisture sensor. So let's see how to fetch values from it. Now for making the project, that is our smart irrigation system, we need soil moisture sensor with our I2C. Apart from that, we need Arduino, our motor driver. This is your motor driver. Then we need a water pump. So this is your water pump, which we will use to pass the water from one container to another container. And also we need some jumper wires to make the connection. So let's start by fetching the value from our soil moisture sensor. So let's put the rest of the things aside. Let us start by making the connection. So first of all, we have two jumper wires. So that's plugged in. So there is no positive and negative here. So what you can do, you can plug it anywhere. You can plug it any pins with your first one or any ones with the second one. Now after that, what we have to do, we have to just use four more jumper wires to connect it with our Arduino. Let's start by using these pins. We need one more wire. Okay. Now what we have to do, we have to start by providing them the power supply. So for power supplying, what we have this these starting two pins, that is your red and this yellow color pin. So red is your ground and this yellow color is your VCC. So 5 volt and then ground. So after this your this I2C will be light up. Let's see. So let me, here you can see we have a green color LED which is turning on here. So this is your power LED, so it has been turned it on because we have provided the power. Now after that we have two pins, that is your D0 and A0. So D0 is digital, A0 is analog. So let's say A0 we have connected in A0 and the digital one we have connected in pin number 8. So these are my connections. After this let's write some code to fetch the values from here. So let's go to our Arduino. Start by defining the pins. So it will be pin mode. So we have two pins, that is our A0, A0 is your input because we will get some values from it. Then we have another pin, that is your digital one. So it is connected to 8th number. It is also input. So we have these two pins which are of your input type. Now let's use serial monitor to fetch the values. So serial dot to begin to start our serial communication. Let's start by using two variables to fetch the values from here. So we are going to use, let's say, int analog value equals to our analog lead, and the pin is A0. Then we are going to do the same, that is int digital value. It will be equals to your digital read, and the pin is 8th number. Now after that, for this we have to just use a serial monitor to show it. Serial dot print. We are going to show analog values. Do the same for the digital one. It will be digital value. Now a line for your new line. Okay, that's it. Select your COM port and upload the code. Oops, we haven't connected the Arduino with power cable. So let's connect it and then select your COM port, that is 20. Upload the code. The COM port 20 is in my case, your might be different. Okay, so code has been uploaded. Now let's open the serial monitor. Now here if you see, let me expand it. Okay. Now here you can see that we have a value of 1023 for analog, and for digital we have a value of your 0. Now let's try to change it little bit. So currently, for example, I have a, yes, wet soil. So like currently it is wet by default because here you can see these two terminals are not connected with each other. So if I insert this like here, it will be the same because currently it is wet one. Now what if, let's say, I have this, I have a little bit. Okay. Now here you can see that it is wet. So if I plug it in here, like here you can see that the analog value is like changed. Instead of 1023, it is 9. It is now 450, 452, 456 like. And if you see on this plug LED, you will find that the second LED has been turned on. Here you see it is turned on, it is turned off, turned on, turned off. So like that we can fetch the values of our uh, sensor, our soil moisture sensor like this. Now we are going to use the analog values here. So let me hide this COM port for now. Now what we have to do, that we are going to use our motor pump and we will connect it with motor driver. So that, for example, if we have dry soil, then automatically motor pump will be activated and it will like pump the water from our water tank to the soil which is like dry soil. So and when it's like wet, or when we get a value, let's say when we are getting wet, so we are getting a value of like 450, 456 around. So when we got those value, then it is will stop our pump from turning it off, or it will turn it off again. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So let's put them aside. So now let's start by making some connections. So here in a motor pump, you can see we have two wires, that is our positive negative, or this is simply a motor. So every motor has two wires. So we are going to connect it with any one of these two ports. So I am using this right hand side ports. So use a screwdriver to unscrew and tightening up your cables. So let me do it. Okay. So here I have connected the motor with the motor driver. Now what I have to do, I have to give it a power supply using these three ports here. So the first one here, it is a 12 volt. Now if you see from the downward side, you will see that here it is a text written over here that says it is 12 volt. After that we have a ground. So we are going to connect these two pins to power it up. After that we are going to use these holes here, or these pins here, to connect it with our Arduino. So let's use two wires to connect them. Now after that, let's say we don't have a 12 volt pin in our Arduino. So what we are going to do, we are going to plug it in V in pin, and after that we have to plug in ground. So these are the two pins that are necessary. Okay, so we have connected it successfully. Here you can see we have a red color LED which is turned on, means we have given it a power supply. And after that we need two jumper wires. So let me use it. So here we have four pins. Now if I use the left hand side, I have to use the two leftmost pin. If I am using the right hand side, I have to use two rightmost pin. I have used the right hand side, so I will use two rightmost pin, and I will use these two pins to connect it with my digital pins. Here I am using the pins that is our 6 number and 7 number. So this is my uh, circuit connections only. Now let's go to our code. Now in the code we are only using the analog pin, so we don't need this digital one. So let me increment it. I also don't need this digital from here also. Let's say this digital pins also. Okay, now let's initiate our motor pin. So let me add a comment before it. So this is your like sensor pin. So I will write. Now we are going to use or connect the motor pin. So motor pins will be let's say we have already connected it. These are your 7th and 6th number pin. and it will be your output. These are the two pins we have. After that, what we have to do, we are going to fetch some values from here, and we have fetched the value using the analog value. Now we have to use the conditional operation, that is our if condition. So if the value is like the analog value is let's say when we have wet, the value is around 450 or 456. Let's assume it is 500. Okay, now we have to get a value. So our maximum value is 1023 when we have a dry, and let's say, let me write it down. When dry, value is we have a value 1023, and for wet value is around 456. So let's say if the value is, let's say I assume an average of this 1500, so it is around 750, or let's say 800. So if the value is, let's say 750, okay, if the value is less than 750, then I can easily tell that it is your wet. So I am just taking an average between my dry value and my wet value. So if the value is less than 750, means it is wet, or we have moisture present. Then if the moisture present, then what we have to do, we have to just turn this motor off. So turning the motor off, what we have to do, we have to make them at same level. Digital right 7 comma low, and the bottom one will be also low, that is your digital right 6 number pin, sorry, 6 comma low. It is a condition when we have the values like less than 750. But let's say we also have an else condition, that is if the value is not less than 750, that is it is greater than 750, means it is dry. Then what we have to do, we have to turn on the motor. So let me copy this line, and for turning on the motor, let's make this one as high, and let's upload the code. Okay, so the code has been uploaded. What we have to do, we have to use an external power source. Okay, now if you I think you can hear it, that our motor is like turned on. You can hear the sound. Now this is when we have wet condition. Now if I, like, when we have this dry condition, because when we have dry, the motor should open, but when we have like this wet, it should turn off. Let me print some values also, so that we can easily understand. So what we are going to do, we are not going to print anything here, so let me comment it. So we are going to print it here. So serial dot print, and also so moisture present, turn off motor, and in the else part, moisture not present, turn on motor. Let me upload this and turn on the serial communication. So here you can see in the serial communication that we have moisture present. Turn off the motor because I have put it in a wet area, or here you can see we have like this, it is wet, so we don't turn on the motor, it is will be turned off. But when I release it, moisture is not present because it is dry. Here you can see. Now let's use some actual platform here. Let's use some water, dry soil, so that we can easily see the working of it. So let me arrange it. Let Before that, let me just remove this compound because we don't need it now. We have understood it. So here I have a container. So I will put the motor inside of it. But before putting it, I will use like a pipe and connect it with it, so that the water can come out of it easily. Okay, so as we have connected the pipe successfully, I have also put it a hole here so that I can easily take out the pipe easily. Now for that, let's plug it in and let's cover it. Okay, so this is my water tank for now. This is your pipe where from where the water will come. Let's say I have a area in which I don't have soil present over there. So let me arrange it a little bit. Okay, so here you can see this is your dry area where we don't have any soil present. Now what I have to do, like it is currently in wet. Here you can see we have two LEDs which are turned on. When I like remove it from here and like plug it here, you will see that the water is coming from here and goes here. Now here if you look at carefully that we have two LEDs turning on and it is in wet. So our water pump, here you can see no water is flowing over here. Now when I plugged it in our dry soil, so what you have to do, just you have to look it here. Like let me take another one. So let's you have to imagine that I have plugged in here, and when I remove it, say here you can see that the water is flowing. When I again plugged it, it is not flowing. Now for example, what I do now, let me close this basket or this container. Let me plug it here. So assume that it is your wet. So when we have a wet soil and when we have a moisture, our motor is not turning on. You can see we have no water. But as soon as I plugged it from, remove this from here and like plugged it here, you will see that it has become wet. Currently, let me do it from a different hand. Here you can see. Now, as soon as it gets wet, it has stopped. So like this is the quantity which will that much. This always the moisture will be present. When it again goes to dry, our motor will again pump it up and it will again wet it. Let me if I plug it little bit up. Here you can see it has plugged in. It is producing the water. So like that we can use a smart irrigation system so that we need not to go anywhere else. So here you can see if I plug out this USB port, because I have this my battery backup here, so I can use it now. This is a portable system. If I plug it out, you can see the water spring when I plugged it. So like that when we have a bad condition or we have a draft in there, so what we can use this system to make it. So that's it for today's session. Meet you in the next session.